Welcome to Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha, where you can hear your favorite performers talk about how they got started, their careers, and everything in between. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Spotify at Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha, and on my main Broadway account at Broadway_Corner on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome back to Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha. I am so happy you are here, and today is my first interview back from being in college. First semester's over, and we're so excited to have another Here Lies Love episode. It's still like my favorite show right now, and I'm talking to someone who was in college and on Broadway at the same time. It is Angelo.
Hi,
Nathan, how are you?
doing well. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you so much. And I do have a little bit of a bio for you. So born and raised in San Jose, California, and currently residing in the New York City area, Nathan Angelo is a first-generation Filipino American artist seeking out what he loves most, opportunities to create. He recently made his Broadway debut in the original cast of Here Lies Love, and a Broadway cast, sorry. And Nathan also just finished his last semester in college at Montclair State University, where he has just received his B.F.A in musical theater. So, hey Nathan, you're done with college, you just finished your first Broadway show. I think you're doing pretty well for yourself right now. I don't know, how
Uh,
are you feeling about all of it?
it's still pretty crazy. Now that it's like now that I've had time to kind of process and look back at the things that I was able to accomplish last year, it's still pretty crazy, and I'm still like so grateful. I never thought that anything like that would happen to me, and not only on the scope and scale that it was on, but also like amongst like people that share like the same flesh and blood as me. That's really special, and unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Um, and so like I guess now like what I've been kind of focusing on has been like taking that momentum that I found in the show and through the show and carrying it into the new year, into other projects that are also like Filipino related, and not even just projects too, like even just in my regular life, like trying to speak more Tagalog, or like finding other Filipino Americans who may like not like know the language or as familiar with the culture, and like just trying to like have more conversations about what that means. And currently I'm line producing a short film um, by Ray Tish. He's a senior at Montclair State, my alma mater now, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
And it's titled The Filipino Goodbye. It's a Filipino coming of age. And like our focus for the film is like addressing toxic behavior in Filipino families and familial relationships, and mending generational trauma, and kind of how like different family members like are able to kind of like bring that thing to light. And I think another primary focus of ours is like the nuance of all of it, because with every ethnic group, like there's specific like things that from the beginning of indigenous Filipinos, like things that have carried through Spanish colonization, U.S. imperialism, all the relationships with like other countries, and kind of just like trying to figure out like how did we get here and why do we react to things in the way that we react. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm working on right now, and I'm really
Yeah, no,
excited.
that sounds amazing, and I hope you are sharing all about it so that all of us can see it after it's all done. I think I saw something about it the other day, and I was like, that seems just really cool, and just like the kind of art that you'd always want to make for not only yourself as an artist, but for yourself personally and just in your culture, since being like a part of your ethnic identity and like a part of your culture is so integral to who you are. I mean, I'm not Filipino, I'm like Taiwanese, but it's like it influences a lot in your life regarding like who you interact with or who you're talking to, how you grow up, and just like all those different things. So that seems amazing, and I can't wait to see that. Yeah. And so let's go back to the beginning
All
of
right.
growing up. Can you talk about like first of all your background, like where you grew up, maybe like if you went to an arts school or anything? I know some people do, I didn't. But just like when you kind of discovered theater and just the art of creation, I guess, of creating art.
So I grew up in San Jose, California. I was born and raised in San Jose. I lived in the same, basically in the same place until I was 18 and moved to college. Um, I actually grew up playing sports. Um, and I grew up singing in my church choir. And it kind of, I think my love for performing kind of came like a lot later. The first show I ever did was my second semester of my sophomore year of high school, and it was Seth Rudetsky's Disaster, and that was the first thing I ever did. And I heard about it because I had a huge crush on this girl, and she did. I know, right? It's so classic. Like she did performing
Yeah.
arts, and I wanted to be around her, and I heard that they were that she was auditioning for a musical. And I even remember like my freshman year, like seeing like theater arts as an elective that I could choose and being like, oh no, like I could never do that. That's not something I have any interest in.
Yeah.
But then I auditioned for the musical. I got the lead role, and then I just like fell in love with not only like the performative aspect, because like it's fun to perform and it's fulfilling to perform, and it's nice to have visibility for yourself and be seen on a stage. But for me, like I think the thing that I've really learned like over the course of like the last year, and really early on too, like there was like little tidbits of this kind of knowledge, was that like the thing that's most important is the people that you're around. Theater is not only something that we go and see, but it's who we see it with, or who we're seeing, or who it affects and who it's about, right? So like the whole community aspect, I think, is something that's really, really, really important to me, and something that like resonates with me on like on a visceral kind of level.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then I started doing theater with a program called Starting Arts, and I was a part of a young theater company called Dream Team, and I did shows with them as well. And like it was nice to like start doing that, because then I could kind of like hone in on like what exactly it was. I still didn't really have much technique. I had no technique really until I went to college, and that's where I fell in love with dance, and that's I mean, for me, like I when I was thinking about like what I wanted to major in, like acting was really, I think, what my primary focus was. But then I was like, oh, but like I also like singing and I really love to learn how to dance. And so I guess musical theater would be the best kind of way for me to be able to get all of that. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm really glad I did that, because now it opens me up to like so many different kinds of artistic mediums. Because like working in musical theater, like you get the singing, you get the dance, and you get the acting, but you also get to learn about like costume construction and lighting and set design, and all these different things I realize are all the same thing. It's just in different mediums, right? Because it's all just art. Like
Yeah.
art happens, and then we are the vessel in which it passes through. And so yeah, like I really think my time at Prospect High School and at Starting Arts really like set the groundwork and foundation for like the raw natural talent that I had to be refined once I went to like a 4-year university.
Mhm.
Now that I'm done, I'm really just like taking my time to like let things ferment and let the knowledge that I gained really like find how it sits in my body. Um, and I'm taking a lot more dance class. Like today I took my first contemporary dance class. I've never taken it before, or like that kind of style before. And I was like really nervous, but I was really excited because like the choreographer was Filipino. And another like crazy like random fact is 100% of the people that I take class from are all people of color. And if you think about it, right, it's like the people that I'm taking class from, like when they were growing up and when they were learning about their craft and their art, like I don't know any of them that could have said that like 100% of the people that they take from are people of color. So now like to be, like being trained by these people that are all people of color, like I really find myself in like a place of like not only like privilege but like utmost gratitude. It's like I'm so lucky to have that when for so long like the arts was a primarily like Eurocentric kind of place.
Yeah.
Uh, but with like shows like Here Lies Love and like K-pop and other shows that are coming like this coming season, like stuff's like I'm really excited for. Like there's really important stories that are being told, and they don't all necessarily have to be um like those heart-wrenching kind of like typical like victim stories that I feel like so used to seeing our
Yeah.
people in. We can see ourselves like smiling and laughing and dancing and having a good time. um yeah.
No, that's great. I think what you said about like having all your teachers being people of color, like that is the kind of thing that I would dream about, like to hopefully have in the future. Whereas like it is so rare to even get a teacher of color at all. It seems like, especially in maybe like a college setting or something. Or it was like, I think I was doing like a private acting coaching and my coach was Korean and I was like, you're my first like ever Asian acting teacher ever.
Mhm.
And then same thing with like this voice teacher I was talking to. I was like, first Asian teacher in this discipline ever. And it's like that is so strange because it's like there are so few of us that even like exist in that space.
Yeah.
It's like when you can find those people that are like inspiring to you and inspiring to like different people of color who are also like them. It's like that is just the coolest thing. And I'm so like that is so cool for you.
So lucky. I'm literally, I'm just blessed. I'm just
Yeah.
so blessed. And thankful.
No,
There's so much.
it's great that you're continuing all your training too, especially after college, because I know that's a thing for a lot of people where it's like after you finish school, you have to, continue the training. You can't just like start out, can't
Yeah,
just
the work never stops, you know.
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
you have to keep doing those acting classes and those dance classes, or just making sure you're keeping up with your voice lessons and things like that, instead of just like letting it sit for too long and then picking it
yeah.
up later when it's almost too late. So like get it really back into where it should be. And like as someone who is in a B.F.A program right now and has just finished my first semester, well, you're finishing your last semester, like what is, I guess, something you would say to anyone who is going through the process? Because actually, I don't go to Montclair, but I could have gone to Montclair when I was deciding. That was like one of the top schools that I was thinking of. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that'd be a great idea. So, what is like your advice to, I don't know, just people going through it? Because it is really hard.
I know. It's especially in like environments where you're surrounded by it 24/7. Ensure that you find moments where you just get to be a human being, you know, where you like go and like explore your other interests and go to like museums or like go to like a concert that isn't like theatrical music, or just like find moments where like you can expand like the other parts of your life, because ultimately at the end of the day, like with what we do is so involved in us holistically, that if you go and do something else that you think is unrelated, it actually really does help the art as well. And also like in environments where you're surrounded by like your peers all the time, and you're like kind of in the environment, and it feels like you can't really like escape it. I guess my advice is just to remember why you're there, you know.
Mhm.
Like I feel like for me early on, like my first semester of college was during COVID. So like, because I was like the class that didn't have a high school graduation. And so like for us, like we were together like every so often, because you weren't really getting much like human contact at the time. Um and so I think for us, like we were lucky if we were all together. But
Mhm.
like now that like the pandemic has ended and like we've moved like forward, I think something that I would tell myself if I was in your position now would probably be to just remain open. You know, you're going to meet so many different people. There's so much talent all around you. There's so many things that you can like take in. And I think the more open you are to trying new things and dismantling ways that you feel like you need to approach something, and I guess what I'm trying to say is like get rid of all preconceived notions about what the work is and how you approach it, because I think the best way to like keep things fresh and new is to try things and like approach the work in new ways. um I feel like I don't know, for me, like I got caught kind of like thinking that if I was in class, let me use like a dance class for instance, like I had to do something like this specific way, but like this movement opposed to this movement, like yes, it's the same choreography, but it's like how do you fill the in between? Just like finding more ways to play and have fun. Also, really just have fun. Like
Yeah,
if it's not fun, then why are we doing it? You know?
exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. Um,
Okay.
I think college is such a interesting experience, especially just being like BFA programs are crazy. Like the things
Yeah.
they have us do are insane, but it's funny. Like it's just so funny to me what we do. But it all goes back to, what we love truly and being I think I've tried to say that too, like be a human first before you're a performer in any means,
Yeah.
because like, the things you do as a person will fuel into your art. And just make it stronger.
Process,
So
you know?
yeah, it's like you just have to do that first before you can do anything else.
Mhm.
So yeah, let's talk about Here Lies Love now.
Okay.
So since obvious this is your first time being in Here Lies Love because you could not have been in it 10 years ago, I don't think that
No,
worked at all.
that would
Um,
have been
or
really
it would have
weird. I
I mean, how yeah, I don't know. That would have been very strange to see.
was like 12 or like 13. I don't even know.
Yeah, would not have worked 10 years ago for you. So since this was your first time, like being in the show, like what was the audition process like? How'd you hear about it? Like what was that like for you?
So I heard about it. I was filming another thesis film that was done at NYU that happened to be filming 30 minutes away from my hometown. And I was like surrounded like by like the crew, like the people in the cast, like we were all like people of color. It was just nice to be in like on set with like a bunch of people of color, and we were kind of just like I don't know messing around. And then like I look at my phone like one night it's like 8 p.m. and my friend Katie Davis sends me a Instagram DM of the virtual open call for Here Lies Love. And I'm like, I have no idea what this show is. I'm like, there's a Filipino show. Like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I literally knew nothing. I knew nothing about the show at all. Not even the subject matter, which is crazy. Because that, I mean, that's a different conversation. But I just wasn't really informed much about what happened in the Philippines when I was young, growing up in America, right? Um, but then I saw the call. My friend was like, I think you'd be perfect for it. She didn't even know that it was like gonna be a Broadway production. She just thought it was like a show. I didn't even know it was a Broadway production either. I just knew that it had to do with Filipinos. I was like, oh, like this to me is culturally significant. And I think that was propelled by the fact that I was surrounded by so many people of color.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, oh, like this would be a great thing. And so as soon as I get back to New Jersey, um, I like asked my roommates, I'm like, hey, like I need to film a self tape for this thing. It's called Realize Love. I don't really know what it is. They're like, yeah, sure, we'll help you out. And I recorded this song called Buan by Juan Carlos.
Mhm.
It's my most favorite song in the whole world. And it's actually like the song that like helped me kind of start to like understand and speak Tagalog because it's a song that's fully in Tagalog, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I film it, I submit it, and I'm like, yo, like if they see it, like that's the win. Like I get seen. Because
Yeah.
I wasn't going into the audition process being like, I'm gonna book this show. It was just kind of like, oh, like they're looking for somebody like me, so I guess this is the perfect opportunity for me to be seen at all. Um, and then I get an email. They're like, it's from Gail and Frankie, and they're like, we'd love to see you in person. Let us know like what your availability is like, and I let them know. I meet with them for my first in-person audition in New York, and I sing Buon. They're like, thanks so much. Like, have a great day. I'm like, cool. So I guess that's that. Like, nice. I got in the room. Like, they saw me perform, and then I get an email that night, and they're like, we'd love to have you back to sing for David Byrne, Alex Timbers, Jay O'Connor Navarro, Billy Bustamante, as well as Gail and Frankie. And I was like, oh, word. Like, so, like, I was like, oh, I guess like I'll do this for them. Then sounds good. And then I came in the next day, and then I did it. And I remember David being like, "Oh, hey, like, what's that song about?" And I gave him like a little rundown about it. Like we like shared a few laughs. They said thank you, and I left. And then I don't believe I heard anything for like a little while. But at that point already, like I'd already had 3 wins, right? Like my video got seen,
Yeah.
like I was seen by casting, and I was seen by the director and like other members of the creative team. Um, and so like to me, I was already pretty fulfilled. I didn't really need anything else. And then they asked me to dance. And I was like, oh, word! Like I guess they want to see more of what I can do. Sure. And so I went in and I danced. I had like 2 or 3 dance auditions, and I had just so much fun. Like the whole time, because I wasn't expecting or like wasn't like so like white knuckled over being cast. I think I was just allowed to like really I allowed myself to just invest in the work and have as much fun as I could.
Mhm.
um and ever since then I've actually treated every audition in like every class that way. It's like just have fun, you know, like
Yeah.
ultimately like the only person that's holding you back is yourself. It's like your perception of or your awareness of how other people are perceiving you, or if you look good, or whatever. Like I think because of my audition process with Here Lies Love, like I was able to kind of just get rid of all of that. And so 5 or 6 auditions later, I think my last audition, I think either was the seventh or the eighth audition that I had. And I was commuting in from Jersey too this whole time. Like I would go to class, like I'd be like, yo, sorry, like I gotta go. Like I need to go to this audition. They'd be like, yeah, go ahead, break a leg. Like, I love the program, really. I love them so much. They were so supportive throughout the entire thing. All my friends too. Like it was just, I just felt so much like love all around me that I literally like just had the time of my life in the audition room. And they asked me to do material for Aquino, and I originally went in for the DJ, and so I like did some of his material as well. But that last audition that we had was, I think, the most special one, because it was just everybody in the room, and we were all just like laughing. You know, we were like just being our fully authentic Filipino selves, right? So like for us, like it was just kind of like that was the real win. You know,
Hmm.
that we could be together and be ourselves and have like not worry about anybody else's expectation. You know, I think my approach to the whole audition process is like, well, they're asking me to be Filipino, like I can't fuck that up. So like I'm just gonna go in and just be my full authentic Filipino beautiful self,
Yeah.
and whatever will come, and that's not in my control.
Hmm.
You know, like from the beginning I was like, whether or not I'm cast, that has nothing really to do with my decision making. And so I'm just going to go and show them every part of myself that I can, so that if one part of myself that they really like can fit the project, then so be it. That works. um and so yeah, that was my audition process. And then I was at school eating dinner before a rehearsal I had for On the Town, which was my last show in Montclair. And I got the call with like my friends at dinner. And then and Gail called me and she said, we'd like to offer you um a contract for Here Lies Love. And uh, my life's been different ever since. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Like that's crazy. Just how you treated the audition, like that is so cool because as performers, you're supposed to treat audition like a performance, whatever. It's like, but no, just go in there, be yourself, and have fun. It's like that's where you actually can really show your full self is when you're just like
Dude.
relaxed and you're not putting so much onto each thing. I think I was even talking to Moses and he was saying how like he tried to treat it like just a part of the day, like auditioning. I was like, that's so smart. It's like it doesn't have to have so much weight to it as we think it does. Because it's like what'll happen will happen. It's like whether it
Yeah.
does, that's not up to you. And so it's like you can just try your best and just
Yeah.
also, you have fried rice on your shirt.
Yeah, I do.
No, I'm like, yes, fried rice is life. Rice is life,
This
always.
is a New York-based brand that I really like. I can also show you the back, actually. It says fried rice as, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh,
I
that's
really love this shirt.
awesome.
This is
That
like,
is
it's
awesome.
funny because like my castmates also really love this shirt, so I just wore it because it reminded me of them.
No, it's a great one. I mean, in like so many different Asian cultures, like so much fried rice always.
Oh, for real, like it's life, really.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
actually just ate
especially.
that before this, which is funny too. That's
Oh, say
weird.
that again. Sorry.
I actually just ate fried rice before I hopped on this with you.
See, it was perfect. You knew
Yeah,
exactly what you were doing. You're
I
like,
guess so. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm like my grandma makes fried rice for me all the time. It's like we ate fried rice maybe a week. Like when we were in LA, it's like, always have to have it in your life. And yeah, okay. After the audition process, you had to go in rehearsals and just be Filipino. Like that's kind of what it seems like just from the outside of like you
Mhm.
guys just had such a great time just being together and being a community where
It was the best.
that's never happened before ever on Broadway before. So talk about like the rehearsal process, like what it was like for you, if you'd ever been in a professional setting like that before, and just how you approached rehearsing since the show is kind of crazy to rehearse like in
Yeah.
a studio where it's like you don't have the audience either.
So what was like really nice is like just to preface, like throughout the audition, not audition process, like throughout, I mean, the entire process, like never once were they like, you need to be Filipino, like you need to be more like that, like they know that we can do that, right? So they don't need to tell us to do that. I think for the rehearsal process, the thing that was like, I think the most surreal is the fact that we were rehearsing it the whole time without an audience,
Hmm.
right? So it's like from building the show and like learning Andy B's amazing choreography and learning the music of David Byrne with the direction of Alex Timbers, like it was a foolproof equation to success, really, because
Hmm.
it was so organized, and the work that we did was so specific and intentional. All the while we were just having the time of our life. Like we'd mess around, like we'd like crack jokes, but like what was really nice, I think, is that the fact that we were really able to be so focused that we could delineate when it was time to play and when it was time to work,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like kind of one of those situations where it could have been so easy for all of us to mess around like all the time. Because right, like some cast members already knew each other or had worked on the show prior or knew other people, but like the work ethic in that room was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I mean, this is my first professional thing ever. So it was kind of like, for me, it was kind of just like, well, like because I don't know how to really act in the room or like compose myself in the room, like I'm gonna just be real, and if I'm out of line, somebody's gonna tell me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of just like really just open and present, and like was really aware of when it was the right time to say something or not say something. um but for me, like I think my primary focus was like just learn the material, learn the material, learn the material, in
Yeah.
order for me like to really like mesh it in with my own body, which will allow me then to play with the material. So I think a lot of the rehearsal process was, at least for me, like just making sure that I knew what the steps were, where I was going, what my blocking was, who I would be next to, who I'd
Yeah.
be interacting with, just so like it could open myself up for more, I guess, like creative liberty in terms of how I'm walking or how I'm like doing a specific movement, or I don't know, just like little things like that. I think you need to learn the language before you can speak, right? So for me, I really just wanted to make sure that I knew the language correctly,
Yeah.
and I would always ask questions. Like I never think it's a problem for you to ask for what you need, right? Because if you don't know, like I feel like it's worse for me to mess something up that I could have asked about, opposed to like um not asking about something and then messing it up. If I'm unsure, you ask,
Yeah.
because the jobs of the choreographer, director, and the music director is to give you the information, to guide you, and the
Hmm.
only way they can really guide you is if they know what you need.
Yeah.
So I think that relationship, like I was really early on, like I was just really adamant about making sure that I knew exactly what they wanted.
Hmm.
um and man, the energy in that room was just so fantastic. And it's so funny too, because it was like we got like no natural light. Like it was like a lot of like fluorescent lighting. The walls were white. Like it was like, and I don't know, like it's just one of those places where I couldn't have imagined like the amount of fun that we could take place in a kind of a room that looked like that. I don't know, like it was so special. And like we'd have potlucks and we celebrate birthdays, and on our tens we'd mess around or like lie down or laugh, and it was just like, I don't know, like I think those rehearsal days in the room, like if I could have one of those days where I could just like go through all that all over again, I totally would. I'd give a lot to have that again. It
Hmm.
was really special, like the early stages of my relationships with people who inevitably became like family to me. It's also interesting being the youngest in the room too. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't know that I was 20 when I booked it, or 21 when we started rehearsal.
Mm.
Kind of like I remember like telling like Billy and Alex like a couple weeks in, I was like, y'all know I'm in college and 21, right? They're like, no. They're like, we had literally no idea. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, that's me. I mean, you're not allowed to ask that like with the rules, but I mean, I didn't care. I wanted to let them know, like, um, but yeah, I don't know. I miss them all a lot, and we had a lot of fun in that room rehearsing. And then
Yeah.
the theater was even crazier.
Oh my
The,
God.
oh my God, like yeah, no, it was wild.
Yeah,
And I
yeah. No,
finally
I
introduced
remember
the
seeing
audience.
videos from rehearsals. Like someone posted a clip from rehearsals. I'm like, it just looks so fun. Like even without the audience and just in like normal clothes. I'm like, the show can be whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what was it like making the Broadway debut as like the bunso of your cast?
It was like, I mean,
Which for people, that's the youngest. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. It's really interesting because the whole time we were doing this process, like I was under the kind of I felt that everybody was taking care of me. But by the end of it, I realized that like my energy as the youngest and as like the young, exuberant, kind of excited and even a little naive one was the kind of energy that like people that have been in the industry for 10, 20 years or so like kind of needed in order for it to be the show and kind of community that it was.
Mhm.
So to make my Broadway debut amongst people that I love with my whole heart was really like the most special thing that could have ever happened because for me the show even without the audience is truly a great work, right?
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that Here Lies Love is a great work, and I say that because the work, like my definition of a great work is like something that can stand on its own, and even without the lights, the lights, without the lights and the set and the costumes and all of those technical elements, which don't get me wrong, are also incredibly fantastic. But even without those, even if when it's stripped down, like the show at its core is about the people of the Philippines. And so, to make your Broadway debut amongst your people in a show about the people of the Philippines, I think is like one of the most holistically fulfilling things I could have ever experienced in my life. Like now I can say like for the rest of my life, like I will be so proud of that moment when we did that. When we were the first to do that.
Yeah.
Because for so long, like the spectrum of the pendulum has been swinging in one direction for thousands of years, right? And if our show even moved that pendulum like an inch, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so much to be proud of, truly. Like it was just such a spectacular experience of a show. And I'm like, I listen to it all the time still. I'm like I'm like, it's just
I
fun.
mean,
And I just
it's awesome.
there's just so much to like remember, imagine in my mind. I'm like, yeah, there is just so much that was so special about it. And then also talking about the word bunso, I do have to say something as a Taiwanese person. My mom told me this. I don't speak Mandarin. I can't. I'm trying to learn. Hopefully, I can soon. But she was telling me what it means, I believe, in Taiwanese. And in Taiwanese, it actually means trash. So that's kind of unfortunate.
That's so crazy. Oh my God, there's so many funny things like that. That's hilarious.
Because apparently
Wow.
my mom was telling me this like a couple days ago. I was like talking about it. She's like, "Muso?" I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, that means trash in Taiwanese." I was like, "Oh, okay." Um,
Wow.
like apparently her parents will like joke around and like like call her like, "Bunso, come here," like there's something like that, like. But not meaning the youngest, and my mom is not even the youngest of the family, her family. So it just means trash. I'm like, okay, that's kind of unfortunate. I'm like, when someone was creating Tagalog, they just took like random like things from different things that mean not good things in other places, and then made them something else.
Literally, that's the funniest piece of information I could have heard today. Really.
No, I'm glad I was able to share that. I was like,
No, thank you.
I was like, I
Literally,
think
thank
I
you.
need to tell him about because I found it hilarious, and I was like, oh, okay,
Oh my
whoops,
god.
whoops. That's unfortunate, but it's okay. Different cultural differences, am I right?
Yeah, for real, for real.
And yeah, I think language is such an interesting thing, and I hope I can learn Chinese soon. That would be a fulfilling thing. Are you fluent in Tagalog, or are you just learning still?
Some people in my class like to say I'm fluent. I don't like to say I'm fluent because there's still a lot that I could learn about how it works, at least grammatically.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of like my social awareness of how Tagalog works, like I understand it completely. It just sometimes it's hard when I because I also I'm fluent in Spanish.
Hmm.
So it's like sometimes like I'll like want to say something and I'm like, oh, like no, that's not the right language
Yeah,
because they're kind of similar, um, ever so slightly similar to the point where it's like I have trouble distinguishing it sometimes.
yeah.
But now with like more Filipinos present in my life here on the East Coast, like it's a lot easier for me to practice. I think
Hmm.
that was probably the hardest. Was like I didn't really have anybody I could practice with. So now that like I know all these Filipino artists, like I'm really able to um kind of just hammer away at making sure that I refine my Tagalog.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that with Asian American people, not even just actors, but it's just like whether you know your language of your people or not is just such a interesting factor. And I think for me, it's like becoming more and more apparent that like, okay, I do need to learn eventually, just to like be able to talk to either like grandparents or
Yeah.
really people in your community, and it's just like it makes a lot of a difference in just understanding like who you are even as a person or as like a person of said identity. It's like it does make such a difference, and to hear that like in at Here Lies Love there was Tagalog all the time in backstage and stuff like that, it just made me so happy because like I'm Taiwanese, but in Bakersfield, where I live in California, I grew up
Good.
with a lot of Filipinos. Like
I
I
bet you did. Yeah, there's
I was
hella.
at my tita's house like yesterday, just like
Yeah.
hanging out. And it's like to hear that Tagalog in that place, and then to hear, that it's taking place on Broadway. It's like that is such a special thing too, where it's like we are expanding. Here Lies Love really expanded what Broadway was being at that time last year, and so. Again, it was so special. And do you have a favorite moment in Here Lies Love? Because there are so many great ones. But what is like, if you had to choose something that's either really fun or really impactful, just what is one that sticks out to you?
Okay, should I pick one that happened every show, or should I pick just one moment in time period?
You can do both, whatever you feel like.
I think my favorite, I think moment on stage was when I would enter for Gadra Straight, hold Christina's hand, and then sit down.
Mhm.
Just because I love Christina. Like they are one of I remember meeting them and I knew right away that our relationship was going to be special. Um, they didn't know that though, not at the beginning. They didn't know that, but I knew that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just love him. And I think one moment in time in particular had to probably have been the last God Dress Straight for a multitude of reasons. I mean, like the audience was singing along, we had all of our swings covers on. But I think my the reason I love that moment so much is because everybody in that room was devastated, but I tried my best to smile the entire time. And I
Mhm.
did. And I smiled and I smiled even though people were weeping, looking at me, crying, holding my hand. I just had to smile because it was a win. I'm never gonna look back on Here Lies Love and be like, oh, that's such a loss. No, it was a success from the moment we opened. It
Yeah.
was a success from the moment we got cast. It was a success from the moment. It was just such a huge success for so many different reasons. And I mean, like that and that Godra Straight is exactly why, because it united people and showed people who, whether or not they were Filipino, what that kind of specific experience is like for us.
Mhm.
It's so, I think one of the things about like any art making that's culturally significant, that's a really difficult thing to do, is making something that's so specific as like the Filipino identity or like the Taiwanese identity or Filipino American, Taiwanese American, or any of those identities that are so culturally specific, accessible to everybody. And
Yeah.
I really think our show did that because ultimately, yes, it was about a revolution of a people in the Philippines, but it was also just a message about how people can come together and what the power of coming together can really accomplish.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think that was probably my favorite moment, was that last one that we had, because
Yeah.
everybody in that room was just together, you
Mhm.
know.
It's like my one regret is that I didn't get to go to closing, because it was during Thanksgiving break.
I
And
know.
I was back in California and I was like thinking about it the whole day. I was like, oh, dang, everyone's there and I'm not. I'm like,
It's all good that you got to see it. You got to see it multiple times, which
oh
is
my
also
God. No,
also
no.
I feel bad for the people that didn't get to see it at all, because some
Yeah, no,
people
other people here, I'm telling them about it, and they're so bummed that they didn't get to go. And I'm
yeah.
like, I wish you could have gone and been there, with me. I'm like, one of my titas who loves to like dance and party and stuff. I'm like, you would have, like, she would have loved it. Like, she would have been so happy to just be in that room, not only to see people like her, but to just have like a good time too and enjoy being just like unapologetically Filipino. It's like, it was such a beautiful space to just be given that. And yeah, God Just Straight. The last one I was at, I was bawling my eyes out like so hard. And literally after the show, I was like at stage door. Angelo and Tim were both like, "Why did you have to do that to us, Ashley?" I was like, "I'm sorry." Like, it was the last one. I was like,
We're
okay.
just being real, you know.
I was like, I'm just looking up at it. Moses, like, what's going on right now?
I remember that one too.
Yeah, that was such a good one. And do you have a favorite costume that you had? Because the costumes were crazy and amazing, and you had really good ones too.
Yo, honestly, I don't know if this counts as a costume, but the Fidel Castro mask was my favorite because in that moment I wasn't me.
Yeah.
I was never me. As soon as that mask came on, I was Fidel Castro. I was somebody else. Like that's such a like mask work is so fun. And I remember on closing, I did this crazy thing. Oh my gosh, I did this crazy thing where so you know my moment like up on the mezzanine platform,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when they're like Fidel Castro, and I remember on closing, I was like, yo, I'm gonna do a Russian, and a Russian is like when you do like a toe touch, but your like feet are like
Oh,
flex. I did it on the platform. I
oh
did it
my
on the.
God.
There's a video of it too. It's crazy. Like,
I
oh
need to
my god.
see that video. I need to see that video. That is
I
crazy.
got you. I
I mean,
got
like
you.
that
Actually,
moment, like that song in itself is insane, but for you to do that just
it
like
was
brings it
crazy.
10 times.
I don't even know. I don't even like really know who. I don't even know who took the video. It was just like one day somebody sent me. They were like, "Yo, like somebody got this video of you like doing the Russian." I was like, "Really?" I
You're
was like,
like,
"I
wait a
thought
minute.
nobody saw that." No, it was crazy. Yeah. No, that was probably one of my favorites. Um, but I think my favorite costume though is gonna have to be the Philippine flag dress because it's just. Are you kidding? Like, are
No,
you kidding?
exactly.
Christina, like Corey in the dress with the flag and a little flag, like it was just awesome. It
No,
was just so awesome.
every time she entered, I was just like jaw on the ground, like, oh my God. That moment will forever be in my brain, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love that dress. Like every time that they entered, like,
But Ramos, really.
yeah, no, Clint, like, I mean, he did freaking K-pop. He also did Here Lies Love. Like,
Love you, Clint. Really, I do.
he's
I
really
do.
just like saving all the Asian shows out here, with his amazing costume design. And Nathan, what is your favorite Filipino food? Because there are so many good ones. And like the
But
other day, I had some Filipino spaghetti that my Tita Gigi made, and every single time she makes it, I am so happy. Or like every time I have like sinigang or anything, I'm like,
yeah,
so good.
I used to say my favorite was sinigang.
Hmm.
I used to say that just because the way one of my aunts makes it is really good. But lately, I've really been loving this dish called Bicol Express. I don't know if you know what it is. It's like
Explain
it's it's like
it.
it's like a stewed coconut shrimp pork.
Oh,
Like
I don't know if I've had that, but it
it's
sounds good.
really I really like it. I
Yeah.
really like it. It's really heavy, but like in the winter, it's really nice. I also like the dish called laing, which is taro leaves, coconut milk. I cook a lot also. Um,
That's great.
it's also my mom's favorite. So whenever I like, I don't know, whenever I make Filipino food, I feel like my mom's around. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel like
I know. I love Filipino food. Actually, today I was thinking of going to get like there's like this food truck that's in Bakersfield because there's a lot of
oh
Filipinos. And so
yeah.
they have like Filipino barbecue and I'm like it's one of my favorite things in the whole
Oh,
world.
you should. Oh, damn, you really
I'm like,
love.
before because I'm leaving for to go back to Boston on Saturday. So I'm like, I gotta get this
I
before
get
I
your fix in.
go.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
for
like
real.
where in Boston there's like not a single Filipino restaurant, I don't think.
We're
Like
so lucky out there,
I cannot
really.
find it. I'm like, but anyway, food is such a thing, especially with Asians, of just like culture, community. It's
Yeah,
important. It's always important to me, to make sure I ask about food because it is such like a
yeah,
distinct factor. Like when I was growing up, Filipino food was what I knew. Like
yeah.
that was it.
Oh,
Um, and I think I know your answer already, but who would you want to play in another production of Here Lies Love? Because I think you talked about this before.
I'd love to be the DJ. Are you kidding? Like, I'm now actually a DJ in real life too.
Well,
So
you
like,
DJ Ube, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yes. So like, I'd love to do that. I'd really love to do that. But I'd also love to do my track again because my track is just wild. Like, my track is so wild. But yeah, I'd love to play the DJ. Um, his song at the end is just gorgeous, and also like the fact that he's watching the show the whole show
yeah,
is really like I don't know, like I feel like that would be such just a interesting experience. There isn't many like roles like that, you know.
yeah.
There's
Oh,
maybe like
it's
you can
interesting.
count it like on one hand, you know, the amount of like narrator roles that really get to watch the show while also be in it. I
Mhm.
don't really know of many other. I mean, there's like the MC, but he's not on stage all the time, nor is
Yeah,
he working the whole time.
yeah.
Or but yeah, the DJ I think would be a lot of fun. I just love to throw a party. Like that sounds so lit.
Except Moses isn't really like doing anything though on the like would you want to have it change to be where you are
I
controlling
mean,
it like
like
since you
I
are
could do it. I
the
could do it for real. I don't know how union rules work, but like
DJ?
I'd be down to do something like that.
Yeah,
Because
you're
they
letting you're
working with them, but I don't really know exactly what they were doing together. But I if it were up to me, which it's not, but if it were up to me, I would be in full control.
in Nathan's revival of Here Lies Love,
Yes,
DJ
yeah,
is always in control. I remember when I was talking to Moses a while ago, we were saying how he's like the dictator of the disco
yes.
and how fascinating that is as a role of just like if you
Mm.
look up at him, it's so interesting. Like throughout the show, if you're not just focusing on what you're supposed to, and you really do look up at him and see what his face is like, what he's feeling and thinking, you're like, wow, that's something I didn't notice before. And I wish I had more time. Like out of all the times I saw it, I like saw so much, but then I feel like there's so much I didn't see, which
Yeah.
sucks.
It's one of
And so,
those
like,
shows, you
yeah,
know.
you have to do it so many times to really get into what what the entirety of it is, because you could never really know.
Um,
And okay, you rap for Lin-Manuel Miranda. You were freestyle rapping when he
yeah, that was pretty crazy.
like what inspired that?
All right. Like I literally got to the theater and they were like, Lynn's coming tonight. I was like, oh word, I'm a rap for him. Like as a everybody's like, oh Nathan, you're so funny. Like, haha, you're gonna rap for Lin-Manuel Miranda. I was like, no, like I'm gonna, I think actually. And like so like it was like 5 minutes of places and I'm like scribbling down like some lyrics on like on like I don't even remember either on my phone or something. And like during the show, like I'd be on stage and I like I remember like being like the doctor and like doing the doctor thing. Be like doctor, helicopter, imposter. Like I like the whole show, like I was compiling like
Oh
this
wow.
set of lyrics for him. And then I was like way too scared to ask him to actually show him.
But
But then Jello, Cleo
thank God he
Jello,
got
God
that.
bless
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Jello was like, yo, like my castmate Nathan, he has a rap for you. Do you want to listen? And Lynn was like, all right, like sure, like. And then I did it, and he was like, actually, that was amazing. I was like, thank you so much. Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was
God.
really awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna put in the post that I'll put on Instagram. I'm gonna put like a little the clip of it. I'm like, oh, thank God for Jello, really documenting
Really,
the
yeah,
whole show.
if it wasn't for Jello, like I that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
So,
Jello. You know, the MVP of doing media for Broadway.
uh,
And like what was the hardest part of your track? Like was there a part where it was just like you had to run really like somewhere crazy or you had to do something insane? Like what was I guess the hardest part of your track? Because it is every track is different in that show. And there's nothing that is like exactly the same.
if I'm being real, and to man, Alex and Billy, if you're listening to this, you'll know why. But the flats in Rose of Tacloban, when we're on stage with like those like
Yeah,
cardboard
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, it took us like months into the run to get it right. I feel like because like no, it was literally so hard for us to match up. For some reason, that was like the most impossible feat for us. I don't know why. Like it's either like I'd be earlier, like Tamat would be earlier, or I don't know. But eventually we got it. Eventually we figured it out. But for the longest time, like that was the bane of my existence.
Oh my God.
I like see it on like the call, like that's what we're rehearsing. I'm like, oh, I'm like, no, like, yeah, that was hard. Either that or it might change into like the goalie, like the gold
Mm,
cape, and
yeah.
that was really hard for a while, until I just started running, really running, like, yeah. And once we got the flow, it was a lot easier. It was really the changes that were hard for everybody
Mhm.
because it was like there was a lot of like traffic jams or like crashes before we really got used to who's going when and who should go
Yeah.
after. But we eventually figured that out too. Yeah, props to everybody. I mean, that there were so many moving parts in that show, like, and it took everybody to be like 100% invested and present in order for it to work. And everybody really, really committed. It was really amazing, honestly.
Yeah. No, and I remember seeing that change of the gold with Gina, that Jello shot of her just like sprinting
Oh,
across the entire
it's really
theater.
crazy.
It was like that, and the fact that probably every single person in the cast is probably also doing something similar to that.
Yeah, while it's happening,
It's
yeah, it's
insane. I mean, I wish I could have just like been backstage at some time and just like watched backstage like what's going on. Or I'm sure for like Carol and Renee and AJ and Jello like figuring out swing tracks. I'm like,
well, they're unbelievable. They're pros for a reason, bro. Like I could not do that.
maybe
I
someday.
could, but like they're so good at their job. Like, and it was swing day yesterday. Like
Yeah.
literally props to every swing, because y'all are the superheroes. Like shows would not work without swings, and I really do believe that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's so many times. I remember I saw Carol mid show swing on. Like that was insane.
Crazy. I remember that too. That was so nuts. I was like, wow, you're a savage, and you ate down too. Like I was like, word.
I mean, I guess this is an interesting question. Like, did you know when she was going on? Because that was the time that I saw her swing mid-show. It was like right after Sugar Time Baby and To Walk Like a Woman, where you're like being the doctor. Did she just like appear and you're like, oh, okay.
Actually,
Or did you
I
even think about it or like,
no, I actually crashed into her.
oh, really? Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember now that I'm thinking about it. Because what happened is after Sugar Time Baby, I moved the ladder and then I exit. But at that time, Carol was trying to enter in the same way as I was exiting so she could get on stage for the mid-show swing on. But
Hmm.
we like literally collided. Like it was crazy. Yeah, no, I really didn't really know what was going on at that time.
It's
Um,
like, why are you in costume? What's going on?
yeah, I was like, "Oh, word, you're on. Go, go. I'm sorry. Like I'm in the way right now." Like,
Oh my
yeah,
God. No, I remember that happening, and I was looking at my friend Brian, who also saw the show like a bunch of times, and we're like,
yeah.
where's the other they're no here? That she's not there. And then just like waiting for her to come back later. But
There's
yeah,
a,
like,
there's a
crazy.
lot, like I said, so many moving parts in that show. Like, if it wasn't for everybody being on their A game, like it honestly could have been really dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, because you're like running downstairs, you're like dodging like something that could hit your head. Like, there were so many like pink tape marks. There were so many pink tape marks backstage solely because of me. Like, I'm because I'm tall, right? I'm like one of the tallest, if not the tallest. Like, I'd hit my head on so many things.
Oh my gosh.
'Cause I'm like I was the tallest ensemble member, so like most of the ensemble was doing most of the running, right? So it's like I would hit my head like maybe like once or twice a week. Like it was literally crazy.
Yeah.
until I eventually like figured out like just duck, right?
Yeah. Wait, how tall are you? Are you like,
I'm 5'11".
oh my gosh, that's really tall. Then yeah, that would be like
Yeah,
so
it
many
was crazy.
problems.
Like I remember when we first got there, and I was like, "Oh, like I'm gonna need to like really duck," because
Like
they mentioned it during rehearsal. They were like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to like duck through the mud flaps." And in my mind, I was like, "First off, what are?" I should have just asked. See, one of those examples of where I should have just asked what those are. But they're like, yeah, when you go on for your entrances, like in rehearsal, like just be aware that you're gonna have to go through and duck under something. I was like, word. And then we actually got into the space. I was like, oh, like I probably like really should have practiced that because it took me like a week or two to really get used to doing that.
yeah,
And then
no,
we started doing the shows, so
you're
yeah,
like,
it was.
what's going on? Let's not hit my head again. I'm like, as another pretty tall person, I'm like, I get that a little bit. And like, what did it mean for you to be playing your own ethnicity on a show? Because this probably, I think Moses had played a Filipino before, but I'm guessing for you it never happened
No,
in your
that's
entire
amazing.
life. Since for
Yeah.
Asian performers, that doesn't usually happen. A lot of times, like you'd be playing who knows what, not Filipino. So just what did that mean for you? Like mean to you?
I mean, it was one of our producers, Jose, used to say, it used to use this a James Baldwin quote, and I don't want to misquote it, so I'm going to paraphrase. But he's like, you've already earned your crown. Now you just have to wear it, right? And so, like for me, like especially like in a moment like Child of the Philippines, right?
Mhm.
Like I was just speaking my truth. Like the whole time, it was just complete and utter truth, and
Yeah.
that was like it's like a feeling that you I don't know, like I've never felt anything like that before. But also like nothing has ever felt as right before. So it was like kind of one of those things where it's like, wow, like this is such a beautiful mesh of both reality and fantasy like happening at the same time. It's one of those kind of like I don't know, it feels almost like supernatural kind of I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but it's very like I don't know, like in doing that show, like I always felt like some sort of higher power being like, yeah, like you you're killing it, bro. Just be you. And that
Mhm.
was the really nice thing, I've always wanted to just be me doing my work, but in Here Lies Love, like it was literal,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it is so rare to see people playing their own ethnicities, especially within Asian communities, like which is so strange to me. But now that there is a show like Here Lies Love, or a show, there's another Filipino show that happened in LA on this side of the world that was like also, I believe, all Filipino that I got to see it, and it's just incredible that these things are finally happening. And it's like crossing my fingers for like a Taiwanese musical. Who knows?
Yeah.
Talking
Hey, it's
about
possible. It's
history. I'm like,
possible.
now that Here Lies Love has happened, it's like anything can happen now.
Really, and I do believe I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, no, it's like people should be able to play themselves, just maybe. Like not asking for a lot, but asking just for that. Um, and like, wait, ooh, my document is being funky. Like, did your relationship with your culture change throughout the experience of Here Lies Love, and how did it change?
It was a complete, like, honestly, rediscovery of what my relationship to my people is. I grew up in like without being too specific, I grew up in an environment where, like, and not a home environment necessarily, but I grew up in an institution where I kind of attributed my relationship to being Filipino with my relationship to that institution. It was like like a really um, controlling like Filipino religion and or like a Filipino governed religion. And so my relationship to my culture like growing up was kind of like really confusing um and really like not open or joyful at all.
Hmm.
Um and my relationship with that institution actually had just ended like a year before Here Lies Love had started. And so I think the craziest thing for me was like finding out that like my Broadway debut show was going to be rehearsing in a church with all Filipinos. Like that was really crazy for me. But
Yeah.
it actually like really opened the door for me to like really like take a look at not only myself but those around me, and really think about what it means to be Filipino, right? Because like there's within our community there's this like there's a lot of debates on like Filipinos that grow up in America are not real Filipinos, or if you don't speak the language, then you're not Filipino. Like my belief is like if you got the blood and you got the culture, then you're Filipino, right?
Yeah.
Like of course, like speaking the language is important, which is why I would love to continue. Not would love to, but I'm committed to learning the language. But also like there's there's such a wide spectrum of what Filipino is, because now we have like British Filipinos, Australian Filipinos, we have Filipinos growing up in countries all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
for people to say that you're not Filipino because you don't speak the language, or you didn't grow up in the Philippines, or XYZ, like I don't think that's necessarily fair.
Mhm.
Instead of creating divides within our community, I think it's extremely important to realize what's actually similar between all of us. And oftentimes those are like the really positive things, like joy, or our love for singing, or our love for gathering together, or our love for like all of these different things that are really positive, really points to, I think, focus on, instead of focusing on the things that make us different. um and so for me, like with the show, like it was kind of that moment of, wow, like I'm Filipino, you're Filipino, but like our upbringings are completely different. Or
Yeah.
like you speak Tagalog like really, really well, or you don't actually know any of it at all, or you grew up in the Philippines, or like you grew up amongst people like no Filipinos whatsoever. Like it was just really interesting to see that spectrum, and then all come together and tell a Filipino story, because we all are Filipino. So
Yeah.
like really, that I think like really made me feel a lot better about, not even made me feel a lot better. It opened the door for me to really like not only be proud of it, but also have ownership over it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I think that's amazing. Of just like, yeah, saying what you said about how everyone's had different upbringings, but you're all still Filipino. It's like if someone were to say for me, like if I don't speak Chinese, you're not really Taiwanese, or you're not Chinese or Taiwanese or whatnot. It's like that is kind of ridiculous because you still grow up being that and treated as such in just society or in your family. And it's like that's a big part of your identity, whether you are super connected to it or you're not. It's like it's just a part of who you are, and there's nothing that you can really do to change that. Um, and yeah, just like acknowledging again that we're all so similar. We're different, but we're all so similar still,
Yes.
just in humanity. And what is your advice for either Filipino or just Asian or people of color who are young and wanting to pursue theater?
There's a space for you. There is a place you belong. That's really my advice. It's like, and you have to believe that too. You
Yeah.
know, and also I think the awareness that no one does these kinds of things alone. Like I could not have done what I did in that show if it weren't for the people who took care of me and guided me and loved me and cherished me along the way. And these are still people that I love to this day and cherish to this day. It takes a village to do great things. Um, and so I guess another piece of advice would be, it's like it's a proverb. It goes, kung may tinanim, may aanihin. If you plant, you will harvest. And I believe that, and I've said this before, but I just would like to reiterate, it's like I believe if you plant, you will harvest, but it also depends on the kinds of things that you plant. Like you must plant a good seed in order to reap a good harvest. You must put out good energy to get good energy back. It's all about how you contribute in order for you to even like start thinking about what you can gain from something,
Mhm.
right? Everything in life is a give and take relationship, and it's just a matter of what kinds of things you give and how much you give, that will really determine how much you get to take away from something. I poured my heart into Here Lies Love, poured every ounce of my entire being was poured into that show, and because of that, I'm able to take away so many, so many, so many great things from it that will carry into my life for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
um and have as much fun as you can, because like there's no point in doing it if it's not. I like really, I always make sure to tell people that. And it's not that serious. It's not that serious. It doesn't have to be something that you get solemn about when you talk about your work or get like super serious. Like, sure, that's also fine, but also like, I don't know, smile, you know? It's all right to smile and goof around and and not to worry too much about what other people's perceptions may be about you.
Hmm.
Because ultimately, at the end of the day, all you're gonna have is yourself, and you have to make that a really safe and sustainable place, or else the things that you want to accomplish will not happen.
Hmm.
You just make sure you take care of yourself first, and before you take care of anyone else. That's a lot of a lot of advice. I know you asked for one thing, but
No,
those are
that's
just
honestly is fine.
some things that came out, you know.
Yeah, no, it's like it just it came to your mind and it was great. It's like you really do have to find joy through this. I think I'm trying to figure that out too, of just like when you're in school, it's like, oh, it's school, but like, okay, you're studying something you like, like try to enjoy it a bit
Yeah.
and just like have fun with it. Like being a performer, pff, what the heck are we doing half the time? No idea. But it's like it's still something amazing and it's still something so, so beautiful. Um, and just like what is a passion that you have that has nothing to do with like the arts or theater that's just like something random? I don't know. I've been trying to like, find different avenues of like that's not just oh theater or theater all the time because that's
Yeah.
crazy. But just like what's something that you enjoy that doesn't maybe have to do with your work?
I really like clothes.
No,
I
actually,
really
I can see that.
yeah, I really love clothes. I love craftsmanship, but that's also art too. So let me think of something else.
That's still
Uh,
a good one though. It's like slang.
yeah, I feel like the thing is like in everywhere you look, there's gonna be art, right? Because it's like somebody had to come up with why it looks that way or why it's colored like that, and that's also creativity too. So I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. I guess fashion probably is one of those things though. If we're taking that route, I'm currently
It's apart,
making
I guess apart from theater.
yeah, I'm currently making a skirt for my girlfriend, and we're getting it
Oh,
fitted and figuring it out. I'm making it out of old pair of jeans that I couldn't fit into anymore. So yeah, that's a current thing that I'm doing. That's really nice.
yeah. No, like
Um,
like you said, art is so much of what we do, and it's like it's so fulfilling to have different avenues, like doing this podcast or doing, whatever
yeah.
else I'm trying to do, or it's just like there is so much joy to be found through all of that. And to kind of end off, like, what does representation mean to you?
Oh, representation to me. Uh, I feel like for me, I think representation. Huh. For me, I think, at least in terms of how I would like other people to perceive why I'm doing what I'm doing, is just to see that it's possible for stories where you can see our people laugh and dance and have fun be the things at the forefront, opposed to maybe other stories where Wayne Brady, Wayne here. This is gonna be a better way to explain this. Wayne Brady recorded this video for this interview for The Wiz, and he was like, like for so much of our history, like a lot of our stories were kind of like those like country stories of African Americans being mistreated and being put down in the country and so on and so forth. And he was like, but the Wiz was the first example of oh, like you could just get down and have a good time. Like I
Yeah.
think that I think that's a really good outlook on how representation is important,
Hmm.
because oftentimes like a lot of the history that's discussed are all like the really really bad things, the things that how we were wronged as a people. And don't get me wrong, those are extremely valid and of utmost importance. But also not all stories like that need to be told because they will be told,
Yeah.
right? And so more opportunities to showcase like Filipino joy or Pinoy joy. Like I think that's something that I really really want more of and would like to be a part of in the future. And that's why I'm producing this film.
Yay! Yay, new work by young people. But yeah, I love what you said about just like trying to tell stories of like joy is important. I think like my first encounter with that was really like K-pop, which was like last year. To almost I don't know. And then right after it was like Here Lies Love. I was like, okay, this is another thing. Let's just like funnel the energy into of just like this is a great story that's being told. Yes, there's a lot of seriousness to it,
Yes,
but
of course.
also like maybe what the first like half hour is just like pure fun, and I had a lot of fun every single time I went. And I think there was just really nothing like it. And I'm like, can we bring it back, please?
Yeah.
Somewhere, sometime, someday. I'm like, bring it to California where all the Filipinos are. Um, in reality.
If
Um,
they do it, I'm down. Let me know.
yeah, I know you're like, we'll relocate for Here Lies Love anytime. But yeah, how can everyone, find you and follow you online, whether it be Instagram, whatever, TikTok, just to keep
Not
supporting
really on.
your
I'm not
project?
really on TikTok, but you can follow me on Instagram. It's Nathan G Angelo, or if you want to look at my website, that's it's also nathangangelo.com. Um,
Yeah, websites.
yeah, that's really it. Yeah, I mean, I like my website just because it has like other kinds of work that I have on there, like some of my photography or like some stills of me or just more about me.
Mhm.
But also just reach out like if you have any questions about really anything, like feel free to just like send me a message and I'll try to help as best as I can. Like I'm no like all-knowing person, but I think I feel like I've lived a lifetime like this last year. And so if I have something to offer to you, then feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm sure everyone's gonna want to know all about Nathan. And it's so great, especially having a website that just really shows more of who you are outside of just like, oh, he's the guy who did Here Lies Love. It's like, no, there's so much more to each, you as a person. And yeah, thank you, Nathan, for being on the podcast. This was such a
Look, I'm
great time. I'm
so
glad
glad
we're
you do
finally.
this. I really am so glad you do this. It's so important.
Thank you.
And it's gonna be such a wonderful, and it is such a wonderful resource for people that are growing up in the arts that look like us. So I have to thank you as well. Really,
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thank you so much. That means a
it.
lot. I'm, just trying to bring a different perspective that hasn't been heard as often in this industry and in this world, to just show, that we're all important and we all deserve love and empathy and have different stories being told that may not look like, the people in the audience all the time, and that's okay. To just be able to witness such a beautiful story like Here Lies Love and really see, just who I grew up with in it and people around me and even myself in it, even if I'm not Filipino. I mean, Renee's dad asked me if I was Filipino after the show once.
Huh.
I was like, no, I'm sorry, sir, I'm not. But I'm like, I'm Taiwanese. He's like, that's close enough. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll accept it. Um, but to just have such a beautiful show like Here Lies Love have on Broadway this past year was just such like a light in the darkness after K-pop closed. I was like, this is it. This is it. We're gonna do it again. Have more Asians on Broadway. So yeah, thank you to everyone who is gonna listen to this, and we'll have more soon. I'm actually interviewing Christina in 2 weeks, I believe.
Yay!
More
Oh,
Pinoy joy all around.
I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
But make sure to follow Nathan on all of his things. I'll link them below. Make sure that it's accessible, and we'll see you next time. You've been listening to Broadway Corner with Ashley Ha. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.